Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of the Tharries podcast. I haven't said that in ages and it felt kind of strange, but I liked it. I'm joined by a very special guest today. I'm joined by the one and only Confused Adipose.
Hello. Yeah, thank you for having me on, Tharries. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you on, man. It's great to have you on. Now I've been following you for a while. Like I remember back, I can't remember the exact earliest video yours it was. I think it was like a Series 12 rumour video because I was very much engrossed in that world. Well, I still am to a certain extent.
Yeah, that's when I found your channel as well. It was like in the lead up to Series 12, I think around December time.
Yeah.
Because we were both making similar sort of content at that time.
Yeah, it just seemed to be, at the time at least, the best sort of, like, if you wanted to make Doctor Who content, that got a reasonable reception.
Yeah.
You'd make news videos because A, they were relatively easy to produce, B, they were informative, people wanted to know what was going on, and C, you could make clickbaity titles off.
So, exactly. That's like my main source of views is mild clickbait.
The whole I just watched your recent one with your friend. The recent one,
Jamie.
Jamie. That's I couldn't think of the name off the top of my head. And obviously, you said like the title was something to the effect of a 14th Doctor being cast.
Yeah.
And my reaction to that was, I was like, I swear I've used that title before. I looked through my library and I have. So we clearly have a very similar methods. And then obviously, I did the rebrand thing, as you know, and then obviously, your growth has been like massive.
I was surprised how because I've been doing YouTube for like about 6 years, and then it was only with Series 12 that I properly started making like routine content, and then it built up from there with like the whole hype from Series 12 and everything.
Yeah, like I was slightly earlier in making content in terms of what I do now. I started like late Series 11 kind of time, Witchfinders kind of time off the top of my head, because I obviously went through a period with the show where I was kind of disinterested in it, in like Peter Capaldi's sort of run. Despite Series 10 definitely being a marked improvement over Series 9. I still sort of found myself going kind of and then obviously the announcement of Jodie happened, and I was
and then the internet went crazy.
Yeah, it really did. I was one of the people who was kind of, I was nervous, but I was willing to give it a go. It's worth giving it a shot. And obviously, I watched up until about the Witchfinders, maybe Kablam, or about that sort of time in Series 11. And I'm just like, I'm not getting a vibe from this at all. I'm just not getting that instant reaction that I got from previous series. So, like most people, I complained about it online.
I'm pretty sure every YouTuber out there, almost every, made some form of complaint video about Series 11.
Yeah.
Like, everyone.
I think the thing that, obviously, I think you seem to be a bit more positive on it than I am, I think, from what I can gather at least. Which is obviously something I actually appreciate about you, because I'm so cynical at points. It's nice to actually listen to somebody who's obviously, not even that I'm not excited about it, but I'm just sort of, I'm at a stage now, I think, where I see kind of expect the worst from it in a weird way, and it's like then when it does something like decent, I'm like, wow, that was good.
It's weird because before Series 12 had aired, I was kind of like in that same position because I really didn't like Series 11 at the time, but because of Spyfall, I don't know what it is, but like the whole Sasha master reveal and all that, it just completely like reinvigorated my hype for the show, and I'm still riding on that like hype wave from the beginning of Series 12, and I don't know how, but it somehow managed to fully bring me back into wanting to make Doctor Who stuff.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, I would certainly say, much like Series 10, Series 12 is a marked improvement over its predecessor. I would say that. However, for me, like, I think a lot of that, I do wonder, if the nostalgia stuff wasn't there, would that series have been as effective? If the stories were basically the same, that's the thing that I wonder.
Yeah, I was wondering that the other day, like, because I rewatched Spyfall and I thought, realistically, if it didn't have the whole master reveal at the end, would I still hold it in such high regard? And I honestly don't know. Like, I think it's sort of 50-50 because Series 11, there was no fan service and it didn't go down well, so I don't know.
Yeah, it almost feels like I know Moffat. I've been talking about Stephen Moffat recently, so you have to forgive me. I know Chibnall obviously said he doesn't read reviews.
Yeah.
But I must admit, Series 12 made me think to the otherwise, because...
Yeah, he's got to, because he practically did everything that everyone was asking for.
Essentially, yeah, and it still didn't work for a lot of people.
Yeah, he went too far.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's weird, because it's very difficult to strike a middle ground with Doctor Who. I think that's something, at least in the modern show, that only arguably Russell T Davies has been able to pull off. I think, personally. Like, because it had fan servicey moments. Like, I always think of the scene in Dalek where the invasion Cyberman head is shown in the museum.
Yeah.
And it had those little moments, but it never felt like it was, detracting from what was already there. It didn't feel like the point of the story.
I'd agree with that. And I'd say as well, Series 10, you might disagree with me on this, but I think that struck the perfect balance between like classic, new, and bits of fan service, but like still good for a new audience. Like the whole finale and everything, having the two masters and the Cybermen and everything. Like I think that just worked so well. But then, arguably, as you say, it is a bit too fan servicey.
Yeah, I think with Series 10. I think with Series 10, it's interesting because on the one hand, it does kind of feel like a reboot series, but on the other, it's got these little Moffatisms where I'm like, it still kind of feels a bit fancy. It's kind of in that sort of middle ground, which might be the perfect place. I think that's why a lot of people have grown to like it. It's because it's not as stripped back as Series 11 was, but it's not as full on as Series 12 was either. It's kind of almost a sort of middle ground between those two sort of extremes.
It's weird when like watching Series 10 back because the first half feels completely different to the second half. It's like Moffat wrote the first half to be this reboot, and then the second half he was just like, oh, well, just screw it, let's go back to the fan service.
I'm leaving, so I'm going to put in whatever I want. Yeah. Like, with Series 10, I think, I kind of wish the Monk trilogy had been a two-parter, because I really sort of, towards the end of that Monk trilogy, I was kind of like, okay, I'm kind of done with this now. Obviously, I like the idea of the Doctor being used as a propaganda piece to kind of brainwash the people. And that's a really cool concept, but it's not really focused on that much. Like, by the time we see him working for the monks, Bill's already off to go and try and free him, and then obviously they have the fake out regeneration, which was also something that kind of annoyed me about Series 10, is how many fake out regenerations.
That fake out regeneration in Lie of the Land is literally just there for the trailers. And I think that's one of the reasons it's so bad, is because it's just filler to get to this trailer shot.
Yeah.
Like, it's, no, that's not a good move.
I think as well, Series 10 would probably be held in a bit higher regard if it had ended with Dr. Falls. Like, obviously, I know Twice Upon a Time, obviously, Stephen Moffat didn't want to lose the Christmas slot. Chibnall obviously didn't want the Christmas slot. So he wants to do something for Christmas, but I just think that it really kind of undermines 12's send-off for me a little bit. I feel like if he'd have just regenerated at Dr. Falls, you could have the speech in there, if you want to do the same speech. But, like, I just feel personally that the Twice Upon a Time is focused a bit too heavily on other elements, such as the Captain and the First Doctor. When I would have really liked it to be more focused on the 12th Doctor. Like, with Time of the Doctor, this is the example I would use. Despite that having a lot of stuff, it's all about 11 and him concluding his arcs.
Yeah.
it never feels like he's overshadowed by other things. Whereas with Twice Upon a Time, it kind of feels like, you know, David Bradley steals the show a little bit because he's the first Doctor coming back.
Yeah.
That's, you know, but that's just me.
I always thought that until someone like a few months ago said to me, if you watch Twice Upon a Time as like an epilogue to like Moffat and classic Who's era, then it works really well. And if you view it from that perspective, you have like the first and the last, and there's a massive change coming up, and yeah, it makes it better. But I do agree that the Doctor Falls was like perfection for Moffat to go out on.
Yeah, that was like the perfect send off because it was very epic and bombastic, which is very much his style. You know, you had Capaldi blowing up all the different Cybermen and having an absolute field day. You know, because he always looked to me like he was having so much fun in that scene where he's just blowing up the Cybermen. He always looked like he was having so much fun, and it was like a perfect way to end off his sort of thing. And you know, with the sort of I'd always hoped there'd be stars. You know, it's just a perfect.
He's such a poetic Doctor.
He is, yeah. He's probably gone up in my estimations again. Obviously, I ranked the Doctors a few months ago now, I think, and he was kind of. I want to say kind of middle, because I know a lot of people rank Capaldi very highly now. The thing I struggle with him is just his character development. It just feels very sort of all over the place for a lot of it.
I would say Capaldi is my favourite Doctor, but I can see the problems of like Series 8 to Series 9 to Series 10. He's just 3 different characters. Like there was no in-betweeny stage where he developed. You just sort of join him at the start of the series like, well, this is him now.
That's what I kind of wish, though. I just kind of wish there was some development explaining the changes, or even some dialogue explaining why. It might have, you know, helped me a little bit.
just something there.
You know, if Clara had said, you know, the Doctor's really gone off the grid, you know, after the events of, what was it, last Christmas, seeing Santa Claus really shook him up. You know, not the same. Like, maybe, like, it would have at least helped me understand where Series 9 was picking up from, but, like, as it was just kind of like, okay. But, like, I can totally see why he's your favourite, because it's brilliantly performed. Like, I don't think Capaldi ever puts in a bad performance. You know, like, that man put his heart and soul into that role, and it shows.
I feel sorry for him, though, because the amount of, like, sort of the bad press he gets for being the oldest Doctor and the fans and everything.
Yeah, like I remember that article that came out. Sorry to cut you off there. I remember that article that came out a while ago that was like, Capaldi wasn't universally loved by the fans. And I was like, that's a bit of a mean thing to say when you're supposed to be representing, you know, the company who made his series. That's a bit mean.
It is a shame.
I wouldn't be surprised if he did Big Finish eventually, though. It seems inevitable to me.
Especially because he's a big fan of the show as well.
He's a big fan. He, you know, is a big name as well, but he's not really doing a lot at the moment. Well, no one is. So it's kind of the perfect time to do it, really, because everyone's stuck indoors anyway. If he's got a decent microphone, just get him to voice some stories. You know? It's the perfect time. But no, I wanted to go back to you a little bit more. So tell me about how the channel sort of came about. Obviously, I know you did a 3K special, I believe, where you sort of talked about all the different things. But just give us a brief rundown, you know, for the sake of, I guess, just making the podcast, you know, fit in with all the other ones.
So basically, it was back in 2014, like the first sort of year of secondary school. Like I was very young, like I think 11 or 12, and I just decided one day, like, do you know the YouTuber Vote Saxon 07?
Yeah, I know.
I was like a big fan of his as a child, and he made all these like campy subscriber special videos where they dress up in weird costumes, etc. And me and my friends just decided, right, we're going to become YouTubers. Funnily enough, all of them have stopped making content by now. I'm the only one left going. But we had this sort of group of fan film makers and like Minecraft Doctor Who stuff. And it just sort of grew from there. And as I sort of mentioned earlier, in the lead up to Series 12, I started to make the news videos and all that sort of stuff. And that's when people properly came and watched my videos.
Yeah, like I would say, I think because our content was so like similar in some ways, I think I used to get recommended your content a lot as well.
Yeah.
Because obviously, I think I was searching similar search terms, for tags and for tags and things. I don't know whether that happened to you as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I know that I got recommended you a lot, and obviously we both know Time of the Whovians. They told me they kind of made me more aware of you as well, because they said oh, we'd really like to work with this guy on a video or something, and I was like, he seems cool. And obviously over time I am a religious subscriber of yours. Anytime you put anything out, I'm there. In fact, I would say your sort of face cam style is kind of what I tried, what I've been trying to incorporate into the new stuff to a certain extent, because I kind of like the personal touch of that, and I think that's kind of cool. But obviously,
thank you.
With certain things, I think it works better without face cam. Like, I think when I did the video, I say originally that was going to have a face cam intro, but I thought it just doesn't really gel with the rest of the video.
I've got to say, I loved that video essay from yesterday.
Thank you, man.
It genuinely, it was like top tier, like full fat videos level.
Oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. It took me forever. It took me absolutely ages.
Genuinely, I was like, this is like properly entertaining. And you should definitely make more in that style.
Well, I am planning on doing more. I can reveal some stuff here. Why not?
Yeah.
I was almost the next one I want to do is about the Cybermen, because that's a topic I feel very passionately about, and kind of how their motivation is kind of being lost a little bit across New Who. From Russell T Davies all the way to now, because it's been happening ever since Russell T Davies. Going back to
because like Series 12, they basically just become robots.
Well, yeah, but like I've seen some people say, well, at least the Master makes fun of that fact. It's like, yeah, but it still doesn't change the fact that they want to be robots.
It doesn't excuse the fact that it's there in the first place.
Yeah, and that's something I feel really passionately about. I also want to do one on the Master, and kind of feel like I want to do one about like why he needs to be sort of reinvented. Because I think with the Doctor, I feel like there's a lot more variety between incarnations. Whereas with the Master, because of how iconic portrayals like Delgado are, there is this kind of feeling that they need to fit within this certain mould. Yeah. And if they don't fit within that mould, then it's not a good Master portrayal. Like, I remember a lot of people were hating on Sim for being too crazy and stuff, and it's like, well, they can't all be Delgado.
Exactly, and like you can see from Dewan's performance, although I love him, he is almost exactly the same as John Sim. Like, they keep sort of copying each other. I'd say Missy was quite different, but then that might just be because she's like a female version of the character.
I don't even think it's as much that. I think it's more the redemption arc was what made her feel different. If that wasn't there, I feel like she'd feel pretty similar, just a woman.
Yeah, actually, yes.
I think it was that. But the thing is, I was never a fan of the redemption arc, because I always knew that the Master was eventually going to go back to being the Master, because of course he is. You're not gonna not have the Master.
You can't just keep a nice Master.
But I do wonder if the character has passed its sell-by date a little bit, because he was originally conceived as the kind of James Bond-esque villain to the Doctor, which worked well in the 70s because it was all sort of inspired by James Bond. But nowadays, it's kind of like, do we need a Master with how dark the Doctor can get as well? Like, is that reflected?
They could always bring in, like, the Vanguard and that sort of thing if they want to explore a, like, darker version of the Doctor.
Yeah, or bring back the Dream Lord. Please do that. Yeah. Please do that.
Yeah,
I love
definitely. I don't get why he was only used in one episode. Like, there was so much potential there.
Well, it was always teased that he would come back as well, because in the end of Amy's Choice, this has always bugged me. There's a scene where the 11th Doctor's looking down at the TARDIS, and you see the Dream Lord's face, and it hints that he's coming back, and he never does. I was like, why?
Yeah. I wonder if it was originally planned and then they scrapped it or something.
Maybe. I mean, I'd love to have seen another episode with the Dream Lord in it. I just think that was such a cool concept. And I think the Dream Lord, much like the Doctor, can change to fit with a certain incarnation. Because obviously the Dream Lord made fun of a lot of Eleven's sort of personality traits. You know, you could open up a tawdry workshop. You know, that sort of whole thing. So if you could imagine doing a similar thing for like 13 or 14 when they eventually get around to that. You know, I think one with 13 would be very interesting because I feel as though, I mean, this might just be me reaching a bit, but I hope that the child entertainer thing is not the only thing. Like, we get hints of her being darker in Series 12, and I just hope that that's where they go with her, because I feel like I think that's almost where Jodie's strengths lie a bit more, because she felt the most like the Doctor to me in that scene in Haunting of Darcy, where she's like, this team structure isn't flat, it's mountainous with me at the summit. That's when she felt like the Doctor the most to me, and that wasn't chirpy at all. That was very sort of serious and sort of sad and aggressive, and I kind of liked that.
Definitely. One of the things I think of which makes me like the 13th Doctor a lot more than I used to is that moment in the Haunting of Villa Diodati. When I saw it, I thought, what if this whole time she's putting on this personality? Like, it's not her actual personality, but because she's so angry and insecure and feels all of these different emotions and she doesn't know what she feels, she just puts on this happy front, and that's why she says things like fam and all that jazz, is because she's like insecure and like, that's probably looking far too deep into it.
Yeah, if that turns out to be the case, I will happily bow down to Chibnall, you know, like you proved me wrong, I'm sorry, but I mean, I suppose at the same time, if that is where they're going with it, then like I'd have liked to have that to been a bit more obvious.
Yeah, I think it's too far into her tenure as the Doctor to suddenly pull that out.
Well, that's the thing. She's been the Doctor now since like 2018. Well, actually, if you can think about it, Christmas 2017, because that's when she had her first
3 years. Wow.
Yeah, that feel old, yeah.
Wow.
We've been complaining about this stuff for years.
The fandom's been torn in two for years and years now.
Yeah, like that's the thing I wonder as well. Is a new Doctor going to reunite people? That's what I wonder. Yeah, is it going to just be as simple as, okay, we got a male Doctor now, you happy now? You know what I mean?
Or I think they'd need to be an exceptional Doctor to fully unite everyone.
Yeah.
Because there's some channels and stuff that are so set in their way of everything's gone wrong and it can never recover.
Yeah.
It would need something like astronomically good to bring them back.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think also, like, that's why I try to be fair where I can. You know, I do try and point out the positives. Like, I just made a positive point about Villa Diodati, because I don't like being associated with the people who only ever say negative things. Because as I said,
that's one thing I really like about your channel, and why I've always kept watching it, is because you will heavily criticize it, but it's all just, and it's coming from your actual opinion, and you're not just mindlessly saying random things. And as you just said, you praise it when it should be praised, and you say it's stupid when it is being stupid.
Don't get me wrong, when I started out, I was much more stereotypical in that way. I was much more of the sort of archetype of the Jodie Whittaker, not, the person who was not a fan of Jodie Whittaker. You're sort of stereotypical, not my Doctor type. I was closer to that. But I think as I've sort of looked at it, I'm like, well, it's not all bad. Nothing is ever all bad. That's nothing. You know what they say? Only a Sith deals in absolutes. It's like nothing is
you
ever.
You underestimate my power. Yeah.
It's over, Anakin. This entire podcast is prequel.
The rest of the podcast.
But no, that's always something that I've tried to do. Is I've tried to be as fair as possible. Even if I like something, like even Timeless Children, I hate personally what that did to the lore. Personally, That's just me.
Yeah.
But I acknowledge that episode looks really good. Like,
Yeah.
Gallifrey in that
Yeah.
episode looks really good. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, that looks really pretty. Like, although I still think Series 10 overall looks better than Series 12. To me,
Yeah.
at least, to my eye. It just seems...
Yeah. I think some of the CGI in Series 12 is far better, but just the way it's like shot and the cameras and stuff. The Series 12 has so many unnecessarily like big lens flares and weird color grading. It's like, don't understand why.
Yeah, they try and make the colours as bright as possible as well, don't they? There's a lot of bright
Yeah.
colours in it. And I especially noticed it with the blue on the Cyberman's chest piece. It's like
Yeah, it's insane.
it's like a giant
And the-
lens flare, and it's like massive blue lights. Just it's like, okay, calm down. That's what.
The scene with Captain Jack as well. The color grading on that is awful. Like it looks all fuzzy.
It looks really dark as well. It looks like they switched the lights off. It looks like someone used to walk over to the other end of the ship and just go. That's what it looks like to me. Like, obviously, that's what I wonder about Series 12. I wonder if that would have been as effective without Captain Jack. You know, that's the thing that I think. Because the fact that Captain Jack came back was obviously a huge thing. Everyone was, you know, going mad about it. Because it's Captain Jack. You know, we haven't seen him, like, before then since, like, what?
It was 10 years.
Yeah, it was Journey's End, wasn't it?
It was briefly in the End of Time.
Oh, yeah.
At the end, in the bar.
So, like, that's what... yeah, it's over 10 years. So I can... I understand people's excitement. But as I said in that sort of video essay I did, what was he actually there to do?
Exactly.
That's kind of my issue with it. If he, you know, actually had a proactive role in the story, say, you know, the Dune were trying to... I don't know. I'm just trying to think of an example off the top of my head. Say that the Jack was trying to figure out who this Time Lord fugitive was, in fear that it was like the Master or something, because, you know, he's had run-ins with the Master before. You know, saying he would see if he was trying to figure out who it was as well, or maybe the fact that he couldn't get a trace on the Doctor was because there was two of them. Maybe that's why he couldn't get a trace on them, you know, and he sort of, you know, questions the intentions. I don't know. I'm just sort of saying random stuff now, but my point is, you could have got him to do something more than just say, beware the
I agree
Cyberman.
with you, definitely. I think I'm going to wait until what's it called? Revolution. I'm going to wait till Revolution of the Daleks, because I think the way Chibnall wrote it, because he writes them in blocks, he wrote Revolution of the Daleks as if it's part of Series 12, and I'm pretty sure Jack's going to be in it, and that whole thing should be explained there, because to us it feels like a long wait, but in Chibnall's mind it was the episode, 4 or 5 episodes after Fugitive.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I do agree. He needed to actually do something rather than just drop in and say, look out for this future thing.
Because as it was, it just kind of felt like, oh, hey, you know, ratings tend to drop around the middle of the season, so let's put something in here to try and boost people back in. Everyone likes John Barrowman, right? Just shove him in. I mean,
it's literally Chibnall's thought process.
It was, but it clearly worked because the fans seemed to love that episode. And I don't get me wrong, again, there's good parts of it. I love the Roof Doctor. I would actually love a series with just her.
Yeah.
I would dig that. You know, I'd like to see, you know, how she escaped from the Division, what she was doing in the Division, you know, how she deals with aliens, because she seems to be a lot more violent. Maybe she'd be like the sort of 7th Doctor sort of character in Remembrance, where he just blows up the Daleks' homeworld with no remorse. And, you know, it's I'd be interested to see a series based on her. In fact, if they do, you know, do a 14th Doctor and it's with Chibnall, I'd love for it to be Ruth.
Yeah.
Because, to me, I think she's everything I wanted 13 to be. In the sense of...
Yeah. She's got that really good dark aspect to her.
Yeah.
And, her performance it feels so doctory, and she's only been on the screen for, 15 minutes.
That's the thing, I was looking at that going, why didn't you write this for the Doctor that we've been following for 2 seasons? You know what I mean? It was you know, you had all this cool stuff about it. She just felt like such a... more interesting character to me, a more interesting proposition. You know, a Doctor who'd messed up with the Time Lords or something. That would have been a really cool idea, and would have taken the show into a new place that we hadn't really seen before. You know, a fugitive
definitely.
Doctor. You know, something we haven't really seen before, save for when it was Earthbound, because then he was sort of condemned to Earth. But even that would not be the same, because she'd actually be running away, which is what the Doctor's known for. It would just be a really interesting kind of proposition. But I mean, maybe he'll do it. If he did do it, I think and he was staying around, I think that would be the best outcome for me, as if they follow Ruth. And even just keep the same TARDIS and everything, I'd be happy with that. You know what?
Yeah, it worked really well.
I think with, obviously, a female Doctor, I feel as though it was important to make sure that those Doctor-y elements were really obvious from the get-go.
Yeah.
I feel like the reaction to the 13th Doctor may have been tempered if she was more like Ruth.
Definitely. It's so weird, because I warmed to the Jo Martin Doctor with her 15 minutes of screen time, yet it took me till midway, if not late series 11, for me to properly enjoy Jodie's performance.
Well, that's the thing with Jodie. I still haven't had my moment for her yet, and that's kind of one of my main critiques, is that I've come close, don't get me wrong. There's, as I said, the scene in Haunting of Olivia Darty is very good. I think the Master have actually helped her characterization considerably.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think that she has someone to sort of work off of, because let's face it, the companions, other than Bradley Walsh, there's not really a lot to work off of there. In terms of character. It's what's Ryan's character? He's dyspraxic. And that's all I know about Ryan.
It's really weird, because the companions, they kind of have a relationship with each other, but there's not even the slightest bit of a relationship with the Doctor at all.
I know, it's weird.
I can't remember which YouTuber said it, but I think it might have been what's his name? The guy who does He Who Moans.
Oh, Stu Bagful. Yeah.
Yeah, you've had him on the podcast.
Yes, I have, yeah.
Yeah, he said that the Jodie Whittaker's Doctor was kind of like that friend who has a car, and they're only going with her because she's got a car or the TARDIS, and she can take her to places. There's no actual development or reason for them to be friends. Which
I remember him saying that, and it does make a lot of sense. The problem is that they keep saying that they're a family, but if that was obvious, you wouldn't have to keep saying it in the script.
Exactly.
You wouldn't have to keep saying, "Oh, we're a family, Doc. We're a family." So I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know why I did sort of a combination of Vin Diesel and Bradley Walsh. How is that even possible? That's the true hybrid.
Dun dun dun.
But no, with you wouldn't have to keep writing that they're a family if that was obvious from the get go.
Yeah.
I get that Ryan and Graham are related. I see that with the whole Grandad arc in Series 11. I get that they're related, but what about the other two? I don't get where they fit.
It's really strange. Because Chibnall, have you seen Broadchurch and shows that he's done in the past?
I haven't. I've kind of been reluctant to do so on the grounds that obviously I'm not impressed with his Doctor Who really, and I don't really want to subject myself to.
Because genuinely, I'd recommend Broadchurch. It is one of the best TV shows I've ever watched, and the characters are what make it so good. Yet Chibnall's Doctor Who, the characters are mostly appalling. How does he go from Broadchurch, where the whole thing is focused on family dynamics and characters and how every emotional event affects the others, to Series 11, where there's no emotion between any of the characters?
The closest we get is the whole Ryan Graham subplot. That's the closest, it's felt like a family to me. The thing that bothers me as well is that when Graham and Ryan leave in Revolution of the Daleks, how much, missed potential is there going to be with Ryan in particular? I think, Graham has kind of done all that he can, I feel like we've had him for enough. In fact, I think he'd have probably been better off leaving in Series 11. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed him in Series 12, but he does feel kind of redundant.
He's kind of just there for the fun of it now, just to make one-liners. He doesn't really have a purpose.
Whereas I think that he served a real purpose in Series 11, and he was basically the heart of that series. You know, he was the one who had all the emotional moments, had all the funny moments. He was basically carrying the show. Poor Bradley Walsh was literally hiking the show up a hill. You know, that big hill that Ryan cycles on. He's just carrying these big rocks with Dr. Ullred on it. You know, but like in Series 12, that goes for Ryan as well. Like, they just kind of stand in the background.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I think Jack said it perfectly, and he's like, really, 3 of you?
Yeah, exactly.
I think
I've got to say as well, Grace from The Woman Who Fell to Earth, Graham's wife who died. Like, I genuinely loved her character. I don't know what it was, but I was so invested, and I wish she was a companion for at least a few episodes. I think it worked really well.
I think she's the most real feeling person to me.
Yeah.
I think that's why I think you might have connected to her, is because she feels real. Like Bradley Walsh, obviously he gives great performances, but deep down you know it's Bradley Walsh. You
can tell he's there being funny, and he'll crack a joke when the cameras stop rolling.
Yeah, exactly. You can tell that he's Bradley Walsh and he's there to make the jokes. But and obviously Ryan is just a non-entity in my opinion.
Yeah.
And obviously Yaz, I think, has improved slightly. I am cautious to see if it is just 13 and Yaz on their own. I am curious to see if she can carry scenes on her own, because she hasn't really had much of a chance to do that. I think the closest I ever got to being like, oh, Yaz might have something is in Spyfall Part 1, where she's interviewing Daniel Barton, and she's getting all up in his face like, oh, so what about your poor work conditions, or something to that effect. You know, it's some line, and obviously it wasn't part of the mission, but she said it anyway, and Daniel Barton's face is just like, I could kill you if I really wanted to. But I actually got the feeling that she had, a sort of presence, and in Praxius as well. There's the scene where she's
where she goes off on her own.
She goes off on her own, and she's like, "Oh, I thought I finally found an alien planet on my own." It's like, that's a cool idea for a companion, one who's kind of sick of being babied by the Doctor and wants to do their own thing. I think that's a cool idea. The problem is once again, that's only been hinted to once.
Yeah.
And if they go with that in Series 13, it's going to feel like it's a bit out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's like an overarching thing with the whole Chibnall era is there's so many brilliant ideas, but they never go anywhere. There's loads of hints at them, but they never carry on through the series and they never develop.
Exactly. Realistically, how much is the Timeless Child going to play into things in Series 13? I think it's going to be little to none. I don't think the Timeless Child is even going to be mentioned. And that annoys me, because you've changed the huge amount of canon, which, I'm not saying on its own is inherently a bad thing, provided you've got some sort of reason for doing it. But, if it's never mentioned again, then why did you bother?
Exactly. Because in The Timeless Children itself, it kind of wraps it up, because I remember going into the episode thinking, right, if they do the whole there's regenerations before Hartnell, I'm going to be annoyed. But I think the way they did it in the episode, it actually sold it to me, and I genuinely believed it. But the only problem is, by the end of the episode, the Ruth Doctor says to Jodie in The Matrix, well, it shouldn't affect who you are, so go and be your normal self. And she does. There's no consequence. There's no lasting effect.
Obviously, she gets captured by the Judea at the end, but we know that's going to be fixed in the finale, in the Christmas special, or New Year's, or whenever it is. Halloween for all, whenever it is, we know that's going to be wrapped up. So that's the thing as well. It feels a bit too. I think it was Who Addicts who said this. It feels too easy for everybody. It feels
Yeah.
like everything's just been a little bit too easy for everybody. It doesn't really feel like anyone's had any consequences beyond the death of Grace, which was very early on. You know, there hasn't really been anything since then. Like, imagine
that's
if...
very true.
Do you know at the beginning of Series 11... not Series 11, Series 12, where
Mm.
Yaz says, oh, I'm going on this secret mission, whatever, and the police officer guy is like, well, if you want to become a police officer, you gotta be here, or something like that.
Yeah.
Imagine if, right, the end of the series, or like in Can You Hear Me when they return to Earth, she lost her place at the police people because of her gallivanting with the Doctor.
That would have been great.
That would have been great, and it would have shown that, you know, travelling the Doctor has consequences. You know, it's not
it would give her something to actually talk about and do, and she'd be frustrated with the Doctor, and then you have more dynamics, etc.
Yeah, it doesn't...
That's actually a great idea.
Thanks. I just come up with this stuff randomly, you know, because I just think about it a lot. You know, I think like that video essay was very cathartic for me because I was just all these ideas I was having for months.
Yeah, you do have a lot of very good ideas because they all fit with, like, you never change massively what happens, but you just alter it in a way that would work really well.
Yeah, it's like with I came up with the idea that imagine if Haunting of Villa Diodati was a Weeping Angel story. Like, as well, because it would make sense because the house around them was temporarily changing. Which would make so much more sense as a Weeping Angel plot because because you could actually make them dead Time Lords because that's always been alluded to, and like I wouldn't actually mind that being confirmed. I actually think that's really cool.
Yeah,
that Weeping Angels are dead Time Lords.
Another amazing idea there.
Yeah, but like that's always been something that was theorized is that they're dead Time Lords because of that scene in End of Time. Where probably the Doctor's mum or whoever she is has the Tech
thing. Tech tune.
That's another thing as well. That name.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds like something straight out of like the William Hartnell era.
Yeah. Like even that's like I feel like, you know, I don't know. I think maybe Saffron Dewan loves saying it, but he seemed to say it an awful lot in Time Shorter. It's like, Tech-tune.
There's like, someone made a counter for it on YouTube, and he says it like over 20 times. Yeah. It's like, why?
Maybe the true timeless child was the number of times Saffron Dewan said Tech-tune.
Plot twist.
But yeah, no, like, obviously... As I said, I don't like to say that everything is truly good or like completely good or completely bad, because I think there is always flaws in everything. Like Series 5 is my personal favourite series of the show.
Yeah. It's
my personal favourite, but I acknowledge that it has its weak parts, you know. Like, for example, off the top of my head, like Beast Below is kind of meh. It's alright, but it's not nothing incredible. Victory of the Daleks, while I like the dynamic the Doctor has with the Daleks, I acknowledge that there's a lot sort of dragging that one down.
Yeah.
You know, I think, as well, as I said in that video, I kind of miss the Dalek paradigm, though. I kind of want them back.
Yeah, I liked the Dalek paradigm's look in the Asylum of the Daleks. Because they, like, rustied them up a bit, and it looked much better.
They gave them a sort of chrome look, and I was like, yeah, that's quite cool. But like, even in Victory, I don't think they look that bad. I feel like a lot of the response from them was just because, oh my god, Teletubby, you know.
Yeah. I think it didn't help as well, the set that they were in, because they were almost crashing their heads along the ceiling, and it was so bright that there was no, like, atmosphere or anything.
And it was like a white room as well, which made the colours stand out even more. Imagine if it was like a dark, black, misty room. You just have these giant Daleks coming out and like these big orange eye just beading, like looking at you. You'd be terrified. But like that's kind of you know.
It would have been great if it was the atmosphere from like Stolen Earth and Journey's End on that sort of ship. Like they come out of the darkness like Davros did. That would have been great.
But that's kind of my thing as well with the Daleks. I think you mentioned this as well. And I know I've mentioned it at one point or another. But I'm starting to get sick of the Time War Daleks now. It's like, we get it, you know, the Time War Daleks are important. But, you know, they're not the only Dalek design ever, you know?
Exactly. They really need to reinvent the Daleks. which is one of the reasons I'm so probably far too hyped for Revolution of the Daleks, because that new design. What are your thoughts on that? Because I actually really like it.
For me, it's not the best, but it's not the worst either. Like I'm kind of in the middle about it. Like some people are saying it's the worst thing since what's the terrible Doctor Who episode? Timeless Children. Some people are saying
Saranga Conundrum.
It's the worst thing since Saranga Conundrum. I'm like, well, it's not that bad. I like the colour scheme of it. My only real issue with it is that it feels a bit disproportionate. Like I said this in a recent sort of news roundup video, that like I obviously talked about the design a bit more. I said like the headpiece and the middle piece feel like they're sort of the wrong size, and it all just doesn't quite. Like, don't get me wrong, I get why the Resolution Dalek was disproportionate because it was built out of scraps. It makes sense, but like if that's how they're all supposed to look, I don't know. But like I like the black colour scheme. And I like. Originally, I didn't like the bottom section. I don't know what you call it. The skirt of it. I guess. Skirt. I didn't like the skirt of it because in the original Clifton suspension bridge images, it looked very like. I was going to say it looked very fat. It was very sort of bulky and big. Whereas in the new leaked images, it looked a lot more sort of sleek. And I'm like, okay, that's a bit better. But like I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. It's kind of just I'm kind of in the middle about it. You seem to like it more than me though.
Yeah, I think the reason I really like it, like I genuinely say it's the best New Who design, simply because I really get the feeling that it's like a quick moving Dalek. Like the whole body could spin around 360 at any moment. The head could like whatever. And you get the feeling that you could have these missiles hidden in the base because it's so big and futuristic, and it looks like it's hiding weapons in there. And like, I get that whole sort of vibe, but I do completely understand where you're coming from because the top half is so like skinny compared to the bottom half.
Yeah, I kind of just wish if they wanted skinnier Daleks, I wish they'd just committed and made the whole thing a bit skinnier rather than just doing the top and middle sections. I think that would sort of even it out a little bit because I'm not opposed to smaller Daleks. Like I actually feel like that might make them feel a bit more sort of futuristic. Because let's be realistic. How practical a giant bulky thing is going to be in a futuristic city with sliding doors that are very narrow? They're not going to be that practical. Because obviously I'm just thinking of the doors in the original Dalek story. They're very sort of small. And you can't really imagine, like, oh god, can you imagine a paradigm Dalek trying to like fit through?
Just get lodged in the door.
You'd have to get like one of the Daleks would have to reverse. It'd be like you were in like a small lane in a car. Give me a moment. But like
one of the things I think they should do with a new redesign, I don't think they have the budget at the moment, but if they made a Dalek that's constantly sort of off the ground and hovering, like condense it all, as you say, make it somewhat smaller, and it can hover and fly around
almost
really
like a
quickly.
Sniper Dalek type thing.
yeah.
Like an aerial sniper. Yeah, that'd be quite cool. I just think that the Daleks, like you say, they do need reinventing to a certain extent. Like, I feel as though the paradigm were the perfect thing to do that, but obviously, like, people overreacted. I do think it was an overreaction, if I'm being honest. I think the whole reaction to it was a bit like, because we only saw them for like 20 minutes in that episode, if that. And everyone was automatically assuming that they were really non-threatening. But obviously, if you see some of the concept art, it generally looked quite good.
Yeah, and I think their voices were the most threatening Dalek voices
especially
out of any
the
of them.
Supreme as well. The Supreme in particular was like really deep, but it was like the Doctor. It was like, that was it. Yeah, I really like the eye on them as well because they're kind of a fusion of the Time War Daleks and the classic Daleks with the beady little eyeball. They're kind of like a mix between the both of them. I really like the eye. I think it just makes it feel a bit more like it's an actual creature rather than a robot to a certain extent.
Gives it more personality as well.
Definitely. It almost feels like you can kind of tell what it's thinking a bit more. I know that's very strange because it is just an eye. But I think you do get more of a sense of personality out of it with that little addition. Something else I'd like to point out as well is, like, in regards to the Daleks, like, we haven't honestly had a truly good Dalek story for ages. Like, I would say the last really good one, I really like Into the Dalek. I think that's the closest we've come to having a really solid Dalek story.
Yeah.
And that was just basically Dalek with extra steps. You know?
Yeah.
So it was like, I
think
really...
apart from Into the Dalek, the last properly good Dalek story would be Stolen Earth and Journey's End.
And that's bad, man. That's like, you know, like,
Yeah.
like 10
Actually,
years.
I will say I do love Resolution.
Okay. I'll
like,
say it's my favourite Series 11 episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I think the Dalek in that is so much more threatening than any of the Moffat era stuff.
I think the reason is that the Doctor isn't making jokes in front of it nearly as much. I think that's kind of the problem with the Moffat Daleks, is that obviously Victory of the Daleks, he takes them absolutely seriously, and that works. But then after Series 5, he's like, oh, I'm playing the triangle. It's like, no.
Yeah. And I hate the moment where Capaldi comes in Davros's chair.
So,
like,
anyone for Dodgems?
It just undermines the whole threateningness of Davros and the Daleks.
I agree, and the fact that they're so scared of him as well. Like, that's another thing. In Time of the Doctor, they're like, still worried, I've got something up my sleeve. It's like, realistically, the Daleks wouldn't care. They would just...
Yeah, like, surely they'd have just shot him by now.
Exactly, like, you know, I kind of... That's the one part of that sort of final scene that I don't really like. Everything else about the scene is perfect. Like, this perfect send-off. Having a massive bombastic thing where he's all blowing up ships, and it's awesome. I honestly think it's one of the coolest regeneration scenes we've ever had. Because it's just like... It's just the 11th Doctor's taking on the world and saying, did you tell me something about the rules? And it's just... I just love that scene. It's so... Yeah. I love that scene a lot. You know...
Time of the Doctor's great.
Time of the Doctor really is. It's kind of a guilty pleasure, because again, I acknowledge that it's trying to do a lot in the time that it has, but I do get the impression that Stephen Moffat intended for Smith to stay on for another series, because I feel like if there was a series 8 with Matt's Doctor, it would kind of wrap that up a lot more, sort of.
I think originally the plan was, Stephen Moffat talks about this at a convention, he was going to keep Matt Smith's Doctor on and make him darker and darker and darker, and explore his days on Trenzalore.
I would love that so much.
Matt Smith wanted to go off and do other projects, so it never happened.
Like, don't get me wrong, I get why, but I also kind of want a Doctor to break the 3-year cycle at this point.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, don't get me wrong, I feel like with what we know about Series 13, it feels to me at least like Jodie will regenerate at Series 13. That's my personal sort of feeling.
Especially because it's taken so long to get to this point.
Exactly, we're 2 series in, you know, and whatever you want to say about the show's popularity, it's undeniable that the ratings have experienced a drop. You know, that was shown in the essay I did, you know, a couple of days ago. Obviously, it sounds like I keep plugging the video essay. It's really just because I spent so much time on it. Now I just want everyone to watch it. But no, like, that video essay was like, obviously I mentioned that Series 12 had the lowest...
Yeah.
Obviously, Thomas Children was the lowest viewed story of the entire revival, which is not a good statistic no matter how you look at it.
Really bad.
That's not a good statistic. Can't say statistic anymore. It's not a good figure no matter how you look at it. That's not a great sort of plaque to have on in your office. I don't think Chris Chibnall is going to walk out of this job like lowest viewed episode of Doctor Who ever award. Well, it's like, you know, I don't think he's gonna proudly hang that up on his you know.
Yeah. Put it on his CV.
Well, then again, some people think he probably would, because, you know, he's like, I don't think he hates the show. I think they just picked the wrong fan. Yeah. I think that's what it is. Like, you know, there's like some fans who are out there who are really passionate, but they just don't quite get it.
Yeah,
and like, as much as they say that they do, they don't quite get it. And I think that's just what happened with Chris Chibnall. Chris Chibnall grew up. You have to remember, Chris Chibnall grew up with the things like the Cartman Master Plan. that's what he
Yeah.
grew up on with the Virgin New Adventures, all those books. So when you think about it in that context, it makes sense that he would want to sort of do a similar thing to that.
Yeah, I've never really thought about it like that before you said it, but it's very true.
Like, it feels like he's wanted to implement these things since he was a kid, and now
Yeah.
he's finally got the opportunity to do it, and no one can tell him maybe don't. You know?
Yeah, I get the impression that he didn't necessarily want to become showrunner, but when he was given the job, he was like, okay, I'll do it, but I'm doing it my way.
It's like, if I'm doing this, I'm going to put in what I want to put in, and to
Yeah.
hell with everyone else. You know? And you're like, you know what? At the end of the day, I kind of respect the balls on him, if nothing else. I respect the fact that he stays true to his vision, no matter how flawed I think it may be. Like, that's something I kind of wish Moffat had done, to a certain extent. I kind of wish, with certain things, he'd have carried them through. Like, for example, as I said in that video, the Doctor being darker, and the paradigm, I kind of wish he'd have just sort of stuck to his guns on that. But yeah, like, I kind of just... Yeah, moral of the story, Chris Chibnall. No, that's not the moral of the story.
That's one thing I do like about The Timeless Children is the fact that it sets up so much debate and so much discussion. Obviously, not all of it's good, but the fact is there's so much to talk about with Doctor Who now, whereas after Series 11, there was just like a drought. There was nothing.
Yeah, what do we talk about? Let's talk about the Ux. Where the Ux school is.
Yes, the lasers in their eyes were cool.
Look, I made that effect in Sony Vegas. But yeah, like, I agree with you. It did at least get people talking, for better or for worse. My fear, though, is that it only got the people within our little circle talking. In the grand scheme of things, how many general audience members are really going to care that there are now pre-Hartnell Doctors and the Morbius Doctors are back?
Yeah.
I would say very few.
Yeah, I asked that exact question after The Timeless Children aired, and because I'm a complete sad person, I went round my sixth form asking a bunch of, like, acquaintances and people that I knew, have you watched Doctor Who and what did you think of it? And almost every single one of them, and these aren't, like, sexist people, and most of them were, like, females, but they were like, I don't want to watch it while there's a female Doctor, because they'd seen Series 11, and their interest had just completely died.
Yeah,
and
I remember you doing the reactions, the like non-Doctor Who fans watch Doctor Who, those videos, and they were really interesting. But yeah, sorry I interrupted you there.
Yeah, they, like, loads of them just, they didn't care, and it made me really like, no, go back to Matt Smith, and every single one of those people that I asked would have been fangirling and, like, insane and like, yes, it's Matt Smith. But now they've given sort of, Series 11 has just damaged the reputation of Jodie Whittaker and the show in general.
I agree. I think the problem was, as I say, it's like, that was Chibnall's big chance to do a reboot series and get people back into it. That was the big chance to really make the show explode again in a way it hadn't since arguably 2010 at the very least. And unfortunately, it did not work out how he wanted it to. Regardless of what you think of the man, it's undeniable that it didn't really have the impact that I think a lot of the people at the BBC were hoping it would. I think that the BBC were hoping for, like, a second David Tennant era. Like, I think that's what they wanted, where it was just massive and everywhere and everyone loved it, and it was, the ratings were massive and the merchandise was flying off the shelves, and that just didn't really happen in the end. I think that's kind of, to a certain extent, why everyone's just kind of like, I don't really care, because, like, obviously, as you said, they watched Series 11, and that, that was, and then they made their mind up, which is fair enough, because after you've watched one series of a show and you don't like it, you're not going to stick around for the follow-up, realistically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, I remember watching, what was the show that I watched? Someone recommended me a show once. I watched, like, the first few episodes of it, and I was just like, I'm really not feeling this. I can't remember what the show was. I was like, I'm just really not feeling this, and I stopped watching it, because you're not going to carry on watching a show that you're not enjoying, and that's the problem, is that I think that Series 12 always had an uphill battle, because obviously, as we've said, it, came off of a series that wasn't that well liked generally. It did well in the ratings, but it was always going to. That was a given because of just how big
The
of a
amount of
change it
curiosity.
was, and how big of a change it was. It was guaranteed to do well. But then, like, obviously, you have the aspect of people not returning because they didn't like it. You have the aspect of it really wasn't marketed that much.
Yeah, the marketing was shocking for Series 12.
And what little marketing there was really wasn't that effective.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't show any of the villains, as I said, which it needed to.
Yeah.
And it should have done. You know, even show Captain Jack in the marketing. I know that that's something that we all hated Stephen Moffat for, but like it or not, it does work.
Yeah, it brings in the audience.
You know, like, I think, how many people would still be talking about World Enough in Time and Dr. Falls if the Mondasian Sidemen and the Masters weren't in it? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that would have had a lot less of an impact. But whether you like it or not, that does work. So there's that fact, and there's also just the fact that, you know, it sort of... it aired at a sort of time of, like... it aired too late as well. That was kind of what my point was. Is that, obviously, with Series 11 airs in 2018, then we had a year gap. And that's probably the worst thing you could have done. The worst thing you could have done is wait another year. Because people forget. People are fickle. They forget about things very quickly. You know? It's like, I forgot Rick and Morty Season 4 was on because it was on Channel 4. You know, because for some reason... I don't know how much Channel 4 paid them. They must have paid, like...
Yeah, a lot.
ridiculous amount. But, like, I forgot it was on because of the fact that it was on Channel 4. I ended up watching it and really enjoying it. Although I still don't think it's as strong as, like, the first two seasons. But my point... Rick and Morty tangent aside. My point with that is that people forget very easily. You know?
Yeah.
Especially with the year that it released in as well. Obviously, the series concluded right before everything went nuts in the world, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, say you watched Series 12, say you were a kid, you watched Series 12, then shortly after, pandemic happens, then shortly after, protests happen, and all these other things get going on in the world. What's the chances of you remembering Doctor Who in, like, 2021 or 2022? I'd argue it's pretty slim.
And especially for a general audience, when they come back to it, they're going to have forgotten the Timeless Child thing even happened. And if they do try and pick up from there, everyone's just going to be left completely confused.
Well, I remember Stu Bagfield saying, I'd love to see what the general audience thought of this, because, like, you know, I think some of us struggled to you know, comprehend what it was doing, and we know all this stuff. And even we were like, really? Are you doing that? Whereas, like, with previous eras of the show, I think Ross Lee Davis did his best. It had lore in it, but it never felt like it was too much for the general audience to sort of handle. Like, you didn't need to know a lot if you just wanted to jump into a random episode. All you need to know... bloke called the Doctor travels through time with, you know, companions and fights monsters. That's about all you need to know. To get the premise, and that works. Whereas if you wanted to show someone Timeless Children, you'd have to explain
Exactly.
The pre-Hartnell Doctor concept.
Yeah, like my family are what I'd call the general audience of Doctor Who, because they watch it when they're in. Like, they wouldn't go out of their way to watch it, but if it's on TV and they know about it, they'll watch it. Yeah. And their reaction to the Timeless Children was, oh, okay. I mean, okay. And that was it. Because, like, they don't care about all the lore and all the backstory and all this, because ultimately, for people who don't know the show too well, it is just sort of another random addition that doesn't really do much.
Exactly. It's like, well, okay, so now she was a child and she was the one who originated regeneration. But why do I care?
Exactly.
That's kind of like that's what I imagine the general sort of response was. Okay, so you've done this thing with the Doctor, but why does it matter? What are you doing with it?
Yeah, like, what's the point?
It's like those Dave Davis videos. It's like the Cybermen. What's the point? It's like I think there needs to be a Timeless children. What's the point? It's like because if it doesn't get picked up in series 13, which I doubt it will, like I think the most we can ever expect is like a passing mention in either Revolution or series 13. Like I can imagine Davros, if he's back, which I think he might be, going like, your past was a lie, Doctor. Like that's I think the most we can honestly expect of the timeless child. I could be wrong. For example, I didn't believe the Sacha Dhawan playing the Master rumor, which makes me look to be a right idiot now. Because like I saw that rumor like a while before it actually happened, and I was like, nah. They're not going to do the Master again. We only just got, the Master's end. Yeah. But I was wrong. I was dead wrong. But yeah, like with Series 12, it's like, I don't know whether general audiences are going to care about most of what it sort of sets up.
Yeah. It's really strange, like, the state of Doctor Who at the minute, because, like, it's incredibly difficult to find, like, any two people with the same sort of opinion on it, because like almost everyone, because there's so much to think about and so many changes to canon that it affects everyone in different ways. It's like it's so strange.
I also think that the fact that there is two polar opposite sides that are so adamant that the show is either the biggest thing since sliced bread or the most hated thing since what's a really hated thing? Thing that everyone despises. Piers Morgan. He just came into my head.
Jake Paul.
Yeah, most hated thing since Jake Paul. But like, I think the reality of it is it's somewhere in the middle. I think it's somewhere in the middle. I don't think. If you want my opinion, is what I think the BBC would definitely be somewhat disappointed by Series 12. I think that's unavoidable. With just how big the drop-off was, I don't think anyone expected it to be that big. I think everyone expected it to be a drop, because that's natural. And I'm not saying it isn't, because, it's TV, there's naturally a drop over time. But with Series 12, the drop was so sudden and just completely, like if there was a graph, with Series 11 ratings and Series 12 ratings, there'd be these huge spike with Series 11, and then just as soon as Series 12 comes on, it just goes straight back down.
Yeah, it's mad. Like, I do wonder as well, is that one of the reasons why Series 12 was marketed so poorly? Because it's almost like they're trying to hide, because they knew it would be such a controversial thing. They're trying to, like, shove it in a corner so that no one sees it.
But then, if that was the case, why would you spend so much money on it? Like, if you don't want anyone to see the thing that you made, don't give them whatever the budget is.
I feel like because Sacha Dhawan said in an interview before the Timeless Children something about he and some others was scared of how fans would react to the finale, and that's one of the things that like put big doubts in my mind initially, because he'd said this before the episode aired, and I feel like it's almost like George Lucas with The Phantom Menace. They'd created it in a flurry of, this is going to be amazing, and then they'd stopped and thought, uh-oh.
I may have gone too far in a few places.
Exactly.
Maybe Chris Chibnall
that legendary quote.
Maybe Chris Chibnall had that same thought process. Maybe he did, because we would never know. But maybe he did have that conversation where it was like, maybe I did go a bit too far with this whole timeless children thing, because no one seems to like it. Because obviously they get it focus tested, they must do, by audiences. So they must have known that some people...
I wonder as well, if you watch the Timeless Children back, I noticed the other week that there's no actual confirmation, and it doesn't make sense that the Master knows the Doctor as the Timeless Child, because he says the file corrupt at the point of the division, and up until that point, nothing has said that the child is the Doctor. Like, there is nothing that actually says that, other than the Master. That
shows, like, the only thing that would show it is they literally show one of the children regenerating into, like, young William Hartnell. You just see his face poking out like a blanket, like Harry Potter. Like, that's the only thing that would really confirm it. Like, I am led to believe, I think maybe that was intentional, so that if the backlash was so big, they could be like, no, it was just the Master.
Yeah, it was a social experiment.
Maybe that's why they kept it so purposefully vague. Is that, you know, if we keep it vague and people don't like it, then it's easier to retcon. But it's not, because you still have to explain where Ruth comes in. So
exactly. I feel like there was originally something in a bigger cut of The Timeless Children that confirmed it, and then like the whole Sasha interview seems to suggest that Chibnall was like, right, we need to be careful here, and then maybe took a few things out to create the final product.
Maybe. I just... It's weird, because... I do find it interesting. Obviously, I saw your video the other day about, obviously, how you spoke about the interview that they were all doing for HBO Max, and Jodie's thoughts on a new Doctor. And I liked yours because of the videos I saw on that subject, you were just speculating. You weren't treating it as fact, whereas I've seen some certain individuals, I'm not going to name any names, because not about that, but there are certain individuals saying, this confirms that the 13th Doctor is leaving. I'm like, no.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It
alludes to it.
Like, it suggests, maybe it suggests something.
Yeah,
maybe
like,
does.
It's not even a full-on suggestion, it's like a really minor possibility.
Like, I think by the time Series 13 comes out, I feel like she probably should by that time. Because she'll have been the Doctor within the public consciousness for about, what? Let's say Series 13 airs in 2022, because I can't see it airing in 2021, especially with everything that's going on. She'll have been a Doctor, like, you know, on-screen Doctor for, like, the last 4 years. Even if she only had 3 series in that time, she'd still been 4 years where she's been the Doctor, even though, you know, Ruth showed up, but she's still the main Doctor, if that makes sense.
It'll feel even longer because of, obviously, the pandemic, and because she was announced in 2017, and that's the sort of point where everyone went mental. It'll feel like a long time.
Like, I used to think, because obviously I wasn't a big fan of the Capaldi era, I used to feel like his tenure was going on for ages because of the 2016 kind of drought, because we didn't have anything in 2016. I used to think, oh, just hurry up and regenerate already, which is horrible, because Peter Capaldi is a lovely actor, and I'm sure a lovely man. But because it just wasn't gelling with me, and because the writing was so poor, in my opinion, at least for Series 9, Series 10, again, was an improvement, but because Series 9 was so poor, in my opinion, I was just like, can you just hurry up and regenerate already? Now I look back on that with some humour, like, no, come back, stay for 1 billion more series. You know, but like now I'm like, but back then I was like, oh, I just want you to regenerate already. I feel like by the time Series 13 comes out, hell, even before then, people who like Jodie's Doctor are going to be like, it's been a while now. You know what I mean? It's like, and obviously I think Chibnall may have shot himself in the foot a bit by introducing Ruth, because for me, that gave me a direct comparison between the two. And Ruth was exactly what I wanted. And just having her against the 13th Doctor kind of showed me how much I just don't like the 13th Doctor.
It really shows how good it could have been.
That's the thing,
You should never introduce a Doctor that's ultimately better than the current one during the current one's era.
And I feel like they kind of did that.
Yeah.
Like, that's how it feels to me, at least, because I feel that Ruth is, as I said, a much more interesting proposition when compared to Jodie. Like, I feel like Ruth has a much more interesting backstory, a much more interesting character. She's a lot more morally grey, which is a lot more interesting than just, I'm the Doctor and I save people. It's like, you know, we get it. It's like, whereas with Ruth, she, like, carries guns. And, you know, I know she said she never use it, but the fact that she would go to the extent of carrying one in the first place is kind of interesting, because that's something we haven't seen since, like, 9, 10 technically, if you count Doctor's Daughter. But
that's one of the reasons that I really, really connect with, like, the 12th and 9th Doctor, is because they do question themselves and their own morality. Like the whole "Am I a good man?" thing with 12, it was never executed as well as it should have been, but the hints were still there, and I think it makes for much more interesting doctory moments. And with in fact, all the New Who Doctors have their moments of complete darkness and anger, but Jodie, for the most part, is just like a happy little child.
Yeah, and that just doesn't really connect with me. I think maybe if I was a lot younger, that may have worked, and I feel like that's why, kids will gravitate towards the 13th
Yeah, because
Doctor.
I have a younger sister who's still in like primary school. She absolutely loves Jodie Whittaker, and Jodie's her favourite Doctor. She's watched Doctor Who for a lot of time, and obviously because I'm in the house, she's seen a lot of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
But she really connects with Jodie's Doctor, and I think it's a great thing for kids, but us long-term fans and people who will and have watched the show for years doesn't necessarily click with her as well as the kids do.
Exactly, yes, I completely agree with you. And people said to me, well, it's a kids show. It's like, no, it's not. It's a family show.
Yeah.
It's supposed to appeal to the whole family, not just kids. We had Sarah Jane for that, and even Sarah Jane managed to appeal to long-term fans.
Yeah.
Which
That's what Smith's Doctor in Series 5 especially is perfect at. He is, like, amazing for the younger audience, and I, as a kid, absolutely adored his Doctor.
Oh, so did I. Yeah. He's still my favourite to this day.
Exactly. As, like, I've grown up, I can still really appreciate the character that's there, and it's not just this childish hollow shell.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Jodie, when these kids grow up, they'll look back on her as, oh, well, she was fun while we were kids, but now she's not great.
Yeah, it's kind of the feeling... I feel like it's going to be a Tennant situation all over again, where when Tennant was on, no one could shut up about how great he was. But over time, he's just been dropping lower and lower in ratings, in regards to where fans rate him. Because it's like, he was really good, but he might not be as good as we were all making him out to be when he was the Doctor. And I think a similar thing may happen with the kids growing up with this Doctor now. With 11, though, like, obviously I did go through a brief period where 8 was my favourite, when I started the YouTube channel, because 8, I just love the sort of Victorian vibe of the 8th Doctor. But with 11, he did the kids stuff, but you always got the sense that there was more to him. I think that's something that 13 lacks, and I also think that the fact that the childish stuff was a front that the Doctor would put up to sort of, hide his problems and forget about them, that was something, it was just that extra level of dimension that made that Doctor work, because he worked on kids.
He was incredibly multi-layered.
He worked for kids on the basis of, okay, he's a silly Doctor with silly catchphrases, makes jokes about Twitter and LOL and all these other things, but then for us long-term fans, it's like behind that, he's hiding, he's essentially an old man in a young man's body, so of course he wouldn't really understand the lingo, of course it would have come across as cringy. 13 doesn't really have that excuse, though.
She just is cringy.
Yeah. And it's, part of me, I think the fault of the 13th Doctor can be laid on Christian and Jodie Whittaker. I've seen a lot of people say that it's not Jodie Whittaker's fault at all. And I'm not entirely sure I agree with that on the basis that she doesn't really have the same presence as your Capaldis, your Smiths, your Tennants, your Ecclestons, to me. And that's something that you could say about, Capaldi especially. Even if the material was garbage, even if it was absolute hot garbage, like some of Moffat's Doctor Who was, he could still make that entertaining.
One of the big comparisons, like the Zygon inversion and Zygon invasion, apart from that big iconic speech, those bits where he's talking about question mark underpants are horrifically badly written. But Capaldi's Doctor delivers it in a way similar to Tom Baker, where he's just sort of taking the mick. He's clearly not serious, whereas Jodie, she almost doesn't understand that what the Doctor's saying isn't serious. It's supposed to be a joke. She says it as if it's true.
Yeah,
Like,
like
there's a line in Resolution where she says, "Oh, take this tablet, but you can't drink it without water, because if you do, you'll sprout 3 extra heads. I did that once. It was an embarrassing party." But she says it seriously, and it's
Yeah.
like, it should be an off-the-cuff joke.
Yeah, or like, I think the one I was thinking of off the top of my head, there's a line in series 12. It's like skills with a Z, and she says it like absolutely non-ironically, and I'm like, no. If Tom Baker was to say that, he'd be like, "I've got skills with a Z," and he would
I've got skills with a Z.
You know, he would purposely exaggerate it to the point that it was funny, whereas with Whittaker, she like, it's 100% non-ironic. It's completely straight face, and that's something I actually have to say about all the characters in general. They're always so uptight all the time. Like, like Ryan especially, like when they're talking to Captain Jack, and he's like doing Captain Jack, being Captain Jack essentially. He's like, "Oh, it's one up from Cheeser." It's like, this Captain Jack, man.
Yeah. See, I'll disagree with you on that. I absolutely loved. That's the scene I'd say Ryan is the best in, and that is. I seem like that seems to be a controversial opinion, but I genuinely love the way that Ryan and Jack play off each other.
I mean, I can kind of see it, but I'm also like, he doesn't really have a reason for not, like, I mean, you're calling Captain Jack cheesy, but you never point out how cheesy the 13th Doctor is. So it kind of comes out of nowhere a little bit. If he was the sort of character who was sort of, if he was kind of the Harry Sullivan of the group, he would kind of call out the Doctor on his / weird antics, you know, that would be, I think, you know, it would make more sense. But because it just sort of comes out of nowhere, you're like, well,
the line would work perfectly with like Rory from series 5.
Yeah, or
like, I could see him saying that, and it would be full on believable.
Mickey Smith basically did say it. You know, it's
with the whole into time and space.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he basically did say that. But like, that works with those characters because they're established to not really get the dynamic and get the whole sort of journey of travelling with the Doctor. You know, that's Harry Sullivan was very much the outsider of season 12. He was the one who was sort of from the outside looking in, and he was always the one who was like, let's get back to the TARDIS, you know. He was the one who was sort of the most cautious and the most sort of down to earth of the three in season 12, the original season 12. Whereas like with this, I don't really get that feeling from any of them. Like, I think the closest would actually be Graham. He's the closest to a real person because he carries a sandwich for emergencies. And I would probably
cheese and pickle sarnie.
Yeah, it's like, I would probably carry some sort of food, you know, just in case, you know. Like, that's something I would probably do if I was a companion. But like, but like, if it was Graham delivering that line, it might have worked, or it might have come across a bit better. But like, I don't know. With Ryan, it just sort of came out of nowhere a little bit.
The thing with Ryan as well, it doesn't work as good as it could have, simply because he doesn't have that much of a character in the first place. So you don't really know what gets on his nerves or what annoys him. He just sort of is there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I absolutely agree. It's the whole thing with, I would say as well, the other line, it's from Yaz. It's in Spyfall, and she's like, not exactly the best representation of MI6 skills. And it's just like, that was just sort of a bit needlessly mean, really. It's like, I'm not being funny, you're a police officer who saw a man with a gun and didn't do anything about it. So, who are you to talk, you know what I mean?
The worst thing that it feels so cringy in Spyfall is when Ryan's doing the whole Logan gag. Like, oh, I forgot my name's Logan, and all that, like...
Yeah, I don't...
It's not funny.
Thing is, it's the delivery of it as well.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, my spy name is Logan, but I don't look anything like Hugh Jackman. It's like, well, where's the funny? Where is the funny?
Where has the funny gone?
Like, the thing is, like, Captain Jack just ran circles around all three of them. That's another thing as well. In the same way that the Roof Doctor kind of showed up the 13th Doctor, I would argue that Captain Jack showed up the current companions.
Definitely.
Cause,
like, he was there. He was, once again, both Ruth and Jack were there for 10 minutes. And just, like, as you say, ran rings around everyone else.
It's like... It felt to me as though Captain Jack had more character in that scene than the three of them combined. Like, quite comfortably. You know, and it's like... That's the issue I have. I think a lot of people, I gotta get this off my chest, a lot of people say that to the people who don't like 13, you're a sexist and all this, and it's like... It's just because you don't like something with a woman in it doesn't automatically make you a sexist.
Exactly.
It's, you know, it's... A lot of people, you know... I don't like Series 9. Does that make me sexist against men because Capaldi's in it? No.
Exactly.
Does that make
the
me...
problem is, because there are, like, once again, I'm not going to name anyone, but there are these channels which are clearly, like, sexist, homophobic, and somewhat racist. And because of them, if you say anything negative, there is that insanely positive crowd that just come at you going, you can't say that because you're like this person. It's like, no.
I think
just
people automatically assume what you are before you even get a chance to speak.
Yeah.
Which is almost in a way why I felt like I was forced into the role of a more sort of negative channel, was because that's how everyone viewed me for such a long time. Because I made videos about why I didn't like the Chibnall era, people were always like, oh, you're a sexist, or you're a bigot, or anything else. And that's the sad thing, though, is that when you get enough of those comments, you start to believe them. That's the sad thing.
Yeah.
Is after a while, it's like, maybe there is something wrong with me. It
is the whole, like, Revenge of the Sith quote of, you're either with me or you're against me.
And I think there needs to be a bit more middle ground with that. Like, I've had... This is something that I love about my more recent work, is I've had comments from people being like, I like the Chibnall era, but I really respect this video and really enjoyed it. Like, there was one person who was like, thank you for this video, because your comments were sort of well reasoned and, you know, fair. Yeah, whereas a lot of these channels are just, Jodie Whittaker is the worst Doctor.
You said that in the perfect accent there.
Diversity hiring.
Oh no, Dr. Nasty.
That's the thing as well. It's like the catchphrases of them. I find that cringy.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I say hello fans from the Wheelchair Gang, right?
Yeah.
And you say hello.
Hello, people of the interweb.
But like, we say it like kind of. There's a sense of irony there. It's like
like it's a joke.
We know they're dumb catchphrases, but it's like they don't think they are. They think they're making a serious statement when they say Dr. Karen or Dr. Woke or Dr. Nasty or all these different names, and it's like that's the thing.
It's really weird because it's like that. There's one of the videos which like me and my friends were watching the other day. We were just like howling with laughter because he makes this point of, well, it's ridiculous because the Doctor has these catchphrases like "fam." You can't say that, can you, Dr. Karen? It's like you just criticise them for using cringy phrases, and you're calling her Dr. Karen.
Yeah, it's like, I remember there was a recent one I watched, because like there was that whole rumour about Jodie and Chibnall being out that resurfaced recently. I don't know whether you've seen that. But like that resurfaced recently. I saw a video on it, and they were like, they kept saying that we will lovingly call Dr. Karen. But they didn't just say it once. They said it like at the end of every sentence that had Jodie Whittaker's name in it. And I'm like, you can't call one thing cringy and repetitive when you're literally doing that.
Exactly.
You know, like, I'm not going to claim to be, you know, above these people. I really don't consider myself to be above anyone, because I used to think like them is the sad thing. You know, I used to think like them. So I really don't want to get people to get the impression that, ooh, making fun of them, but you're not much better. It's like, you're right, no one's much better than anybody.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, like, there's a right way of going about criticism, and there's a wrong way of going about criticism.
Yeah.
And I think that, unfortunately, the people who critique this in the wrong way give all the people that do a bad name. And I don't think that's fair. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I think there's like some genuine like content creators who've have really, you know, critiqued it and done it really well. Like, obviously, Harbo Holmes is probably the Harbo Womes is the correct pronunciation. Like, you know, I gotta get it right. Harbo Womes is the like biggest sort of example at the moment, but also people like Harry's Moving Castle, Nitpicks for Fat Videos, all those people, they do really great critiques of the new stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
But they're not the ones that are focused on by the other side. The ones that are focused on by the other side are your more infamous channels that only say diversity hire, one SJW, and nothing else. It's like, I feel like you could have a sort of a Woody doll with all the "not my doctor" phrases.
It's mad. Like, there's so many. It's just hypocrisy, really.
Yeah, but then you got the other side, right? You got the other side, and like some people think that there are some people who think that everyone who likes it are soy boys and the cucks and simps and anything else.
Yeah.
Any other word.
The amount of comments I get from without sort of generalising, the majority of these comments are coming from like 50-year-old white males who seem so angry, and they're all like attacking me, calling me like, oh, inexperienced idiot, like shill, paid by the BBC, all this stuff. And it's like, what? Do you not have better things to do with your life?
It's like, dude. If we were paid by the BBC, do you really think that, you know, we would be recording in our rooms, you know, with, you know, shitty equipment? No, we wouldn't be. Do you really think?
Like, I'd have a camera and not be using my iPhone.
Do you really think, you know, the Confused Adipose, if he was paid by the BBC, would come on a podcast whose host is notorious for not really liking the current stuff? No,
exactly.
He wouldn't do it.
Yeah, it's like, there's so much leaps in logic from, And
that's the thing as well. Like, I think both sides are and can be equally as ridiculous as each other.
Yeah.
Because you've got the one side that's like SJWs, propaganda, then you got this other side who are like, any of you who don't like this current stuff are sexists. All of you, you over there, you're all bigots. How dare you criticize it? It's like, well, no, people are allowed to express different feelings.
One of the things that really just confused me the other day, I don't know if you've seen my initial reaction to the Timeless Child video, but I was so positive in that because I genuinely loved the episode first time watching it. I mean, I still love it now. I'm not sure on the decisions they made, but I think it's a really entertaining piece of TV. But the other day, someone commented, "You're far too critical" in that review. And I was like, wait, I was literally saying it's one of my favourite finales in the past 10 years. But like, as you say, there's just every angle of the fandom, there's always someone that takes it far too far.
Like with these whole rewatch things, I saw a lot of people complaining like, oh, why don't you do classic rewatches?
Exactly.
And it's like, you do realise that some of them are like 10 hours long. It's like, no wonder they didn't do that, because the format just doesn't work. And people say, well, you could do the shorter stories. It's like, yes, all 5 of them. It's like most of them.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, although there's many, many fans like me and you who love Classic Who, a lot of the Doctor Who audience nowadays only watch the modern series. And I mean, you've got to like appeal to everyone, really. Because like they didn't do series 12 or 11 rewatches, which I mean, kind of fair enough. It's not something that would unite the fandom.
They did do Spyfall at one point. I remember the BBC America arranged something, at one point because Mandy Pure was tweeting about it, but no one did. From what I saw, no one.
Didn't it get overlapped with the Torchwood rewatch that ended up getting more viewers?
Yeah, I think it did, which just goes to show how. Kind
big
of.
yikes.
Yeah, like obviously, I'd like to reiterate again that the intention of this podcast or any of my videos is to stop you guys from liking things. Like whatever you want to like, But just. Let people have their own feelings and don't automatically pigeonhole people that you don't even know based on their opinion on a TV show.
Because I'd say me and you have quite a few differing opinions. I
so.
still really enjoy your content because you're not doing it from like a place of like bad intent. You're genuinely just reviewing it honestly, and like you can't really ask for anything more than that.
It's like I do try and pick out some of the positives, like in the video essay I brought it up again. how many times? Let's do a drinking game. Every time I mention the video essay, take a shot. Except don't do that because you'll end up dead. But with that, it's like I criticised both Stephen Moffat and Christian. I didn't just do one or the other. I criticised both showrunners of the last decade. I could have done Russell as well, but I wanted to keep it to just this decade because I feel like that was where the show really started to feel the same. Although there are a lot of parallels in the Russell T Davies era as well that people pointed out in the comments. But yeah, as I say, it's like there were even people in that like say, "Oh, the Moffat era gets too much hate." I'm like, but I critique them equally.
Exactly.
Perfectly balanced as all things should be.
How many Star Wars quotes are we going to use?
That was an Infinity War quote. That was a
yeah. Well, oh no, people are going to kill me in the comments. It was Thanos. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I summarised Marvel movies the best anyway. It's a talking tree and raccoon with a man with deadly jewelry. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it pretty much sums it up.
That's all it is. Nothing more. No, I'm just kidding. I love the Marvel movies. I'm just joking. I'm probably gonna have a bunch of Marvel fans that'll be like, "How dare you!"
You're gonna get attacked now. They're gonna use the Infinity Gauntlet on you.
Snap me out of existence. Some people would probably see that as a positive. To be fair,
I see this as an absolute win. So I'm gonna stop. No more quotes. No more.
Yeah, you even managed to make a quote about not quoting things.
Oh, no.
Shut up. I think actually I think we should wrap it up for today.
Good note to end it on.
We've been going for 1 hour 37, so pretty good innings. Obviously, Confused Adipose channel will be in the description. If you're not subscribed, who are you really? No, I'm just kidding. I love you all anyway. But go subscribe to. Is it alright if I call you Joe? Is that?
Yeah,
cool?
That's fine.
Coolio. Yeah, I'll leave.
Massive thanks for having me on the channel. Brilliant to be here.
That's fine, man. I've wanted you on for a while, but obviously I went through a rebrand and stuff, and it was all over the place. But I'm kind of back. I'll do the occasional not Doctor Who related thing, but obviously, I'm trying to do some more Doctor Who stuff because I've got some things to say. And people seem to like the last one, so.
Yeah.
Here we are.
The video essay was definitely I've said it so many times in this video, but it was genuinely really good.
Yeah, and I would say your content, it's kind of because I take a bit longer sometimes because sometimes with news videos I'm really up to date, but you seem to get them out at a really good pace. So if you want stuff maybe sometimes before I can get to it, or things that I haven't even found out yet, then go subscribe to Joe because he normally covers it quicker than I can. Because I take forever. But go subscribe to Joe. Leave this video a like if you enjoyed. Obviously, it's the return of the Tharries podcast.
Woohoo!
Never thought I'd say that, but how many episodes in are we? We're 15 episodes in. That's a really long. I think we might be one of the longest running on YouTube in terms of Doctor Who podcasts.
Yeah.
Because I know that who had a Doctor Who podcast? Ace Creeper had one, and then he now
That
does
fizzled out.
that fizzled out, and now he's doing Idiot's Guide to the Galaxy, which is really good, by the way.
Yeah.
But I'm like, mine's still here. It still exists,
Yeah.
guys. So yeah, if you enjoyed this return of the series, be sure to give it a like, show it some love. Obviously, I haven't done this series in a while, so it's relatively untested in this new sort of era of the channel. So all your support be appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I will see you later.